Hello, this is part two of the discussion of improve phase activities of the Six Sigma DMAIC cycle. Before watching this video, you should have watched the video on selecting solutions, and you should have also read through the instructor notes on improve phase activities. Well, given we have now finally selected a solution or solutions that we will implement that address the objectives of the project and hopefully will meet those objectives. The next question is, how do we implement the solutions? One of the failings of continuous improvement projects is the failure to have a well-structured and well thought out plan. In other words, you have to be very certain of how you do the implementation. So in this section, we'll talk a little bit about some of the issues that come about in developing an implementation plan. Okay. First of all, and this is important, there is going to be a lot of preparation work that the team has to do in advance. They have to decide who is going to do what along with what needs to be done, and there needs to be a great deal of planning. Again, many improvement projects fail because they simply did not implement their solutions in a very thorough and thoughtful manner to make sure that those solutions will actually take hold in the organization. Okay. So first of all, what are your objectives? Okay. What is the deadline? You should have thought about this when you were looking at potential solutions, at figuring out what the lead time will be to develop the solution. What are the milestones of the plan? This is like any project planning activity. You have to lay out the activities and the point at which they will be completed. What personnel are needed. Often at the implementation phase, the team will have to consider adding additional resources, for instance, people from human resources, trainers. You may have to bring in people from other departments that haven't been involved to help with the implementation. Above all, remember, you're now going to go live with solutions, and you need to make sure all stakeholders in the organizations are fully informed and on board with what is about to happen. Okay. And something that will almost always be necessary is training. You're typically going to be implementing a changed process or new processes, and some amount of training will be required. You have to know what that training will be and who will do it. And believe me, the training part of this is extremely important. Don't just throw something out there in the organization and tell everybody to do it. They've got to know exactly what's expected of them and exactly how the new process or changed process is going to work. This is not a trivial step. Okay. You also have to consider buy-in when you're planning the implementation. If you don't have proper support of the stakeholders, example, your sponsors, managers in the different areas, then you're likely to fail. And they don't like surprises, so they need to know exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and what the expected benefits are. So make sure you have all the buy-in from the appropriate people. Okay. Again, I will not go through every step. You have the notes to read, and you should, but you have to go through planning. Again, I find planning the implementation can actually take more time than people realize, yet it's so critical to your long-term success. Okay. And will not, as I said, I will not go through all of this. I will simply leave it up to you to read them. I'm just emphasizing certain points. Communication plan. As I said, people don't like surprises, and part of getting buy-in from all the stakeholders and sponsors and managers, part of that is clear communication. Often there is an attempt to simply implement solutions or changes without properly communicating to everybody what is going on, so there are no surprises, and at the same time trying to get their buy-in. So a communication plan, which we also talked about back in the define phase, is very important in the improve phase where we're now implementing solutions. Okay. Then finally, implementation itself, and as it says at the bottom, attention to detail. There is a tendency to think at this point you've solved the problem and you can celebrate, but it's not that simple. Okay. And by the way, some tools that can be used, one of them I'll mention called a force field analysis. I'll give you an example. This is typically used by teams to figure out where the driving forces are to improve the process and implement, and what are the barriers, and you've got to address the barriers or you have no chance of success. So this is just a tool to help you in planning the implementation, and it may also lead you to people you need to get on board and communicate with in order for success. Okay. And then finally, just a quick summary of things that will lead to a solution and a successful implementation. Do not take it lightly. The implementation plan is critical.